So the plan for today is we are going to do Google Forms for specifically using it for a quiz or a test versus the other powerful tools that it has with survey collection and that sort of thing. And because we've already run this before and there have been emails coming to me with specific questions about how they use Google Forms or problems with answer keys, or if a PLC is all sharing the same test and everyone's answers are getting pulled, I'm looking to address some of those specific things that have come up. I'm also hoping that maybe the last 5 minutes or so I'll leave open for specific questions and answers related to how you're using Google Forms so that everyone's getting the most out of it that we can. At this point, I am going to share this screen here. Let me get out of that. Now, I'll start by saying with Google Classroom, you do have the option to go right from Google Classroom and make a quiz from scratch. I don't recommend that myself because then you don't really know where that form lives. And if you're sharing it between other people in your department, it's a lot more cumbersome to do it that way. So it's better for you to start in Google Drive, navigate it to a folder that you want the form to live inside of, maybe a team drive as an example, and then manipulate it and later assign it to Google Classroom when you're ready to do so. So in order to get to Forms, if you don't know how to get there already, you go up to New, More, and Google Forms. And then you're going to get a screen that looks like this. So first thing you do when you get in here is you want to name your form. And you do it right up here, sample test as an example. When you click away from it and then go up to the top left corner where it says Untitled Form again and put it right up there. You can change this though, like if you wanted to call it something else as the title that the students see and then rename it to something else up here, you can do that. I just thought I'd show you that quick little trick there. Now from here, if you want to give it a description, put more specific notes about it, you can use this area to do so, but it's not required. You don't have to. You can see that it's going to start by giving you one question and one option to fill in. I'm going to let you know if you haven't figured this out already. If you leave it that there are multiple choice questions, it's going to act like a Scantron. So if you wanted to sort of set it and forget it, let it grade for you automatically, then certainly Scantron type of questions, multiple choice questions will be the way to go. If you want to have more open-ended responses, then that's where you as a human are still going to have to go in and grade it. But I'll show you what both ends look like. This first untitled question, I'm going to name this, what is the first letter of the alphabet? Okay, and the first option is going to be A. Now I would want to add another option, maybe being Z. Add another option, be D, and the last one here, be Q. Okay, that was pretty easy. You just click to add as many options as you want. There's no limit to the number of options you could choose. I will get into the answer key in a second, but just to show you the differences, I'm going to give you a couple more questions here. What is the name of my puggle? We got Riley, we have Ben, and we have Dodge. And then this last one, I'm going to make a short answer, or paragraph answer are going to be the open-ended response type of questions. So this would be, in the story, what color was the fence? And that, instead of giving them options to choose from, they would manually have to type in an answer there. Now, you can make this as many questions as you want. You could also organize it into section titles. You could add images that the students, maybe you could do like a picture prompts kind of thing and add a picture before they answer it. You could have them watch a video and then respond to watching the video. But now I'm going to have to actually turn on the quiz feature, because right now, even though this is set up like a test, it's not going to grade it. So I would have to go up to settings in this top right corner up here. And then you'll see right across the screen, the quizzes is the last option. And you're going to turn it on to make this a quiz. If you don't do this step, it's not going to be set up for grading. If we were back in a normal normal environment that everyone was on a Chromebook, you could have a turn on locked mode turned on that the students would be able to like search the internet and then come back and type in an answer. But because we're all working on different devices, some kids are using phones, iPads, desktop computers. Really, there's no saying what kind of device they're taking this test on. I don't recommend turning this on at this point. Just know that in the future, if you were, using a Chrome card or something, you could turn that on. Now, talking about releasing grades. So if you have it set up like a Scantron and you want to let the student know as soon as they hit submit what their grade was, you could leave it turned on that it automatically gives them their points and lets them know how they did. If you have open-ended responses, though, you're going to want to manually grade them. So chances are you're going to want to have this set to later. After you take a look, you give the points out, and then you have to push out to give them their actual grades. These other checkboxes down here are really just based on how you would like to use them. So you can have the student, get a notification before they hit submit if they missed a question. If your questions or your quiz is 25 questions long, they may have kept scrolling and not realized that they missed a question, or they meant to go back and finish it and they didn't. This would remind them before they hit submit that they have a question they didn't answer. So if you leave that checked on, it would give them that notification. You also could decide if you want to give your correct answers away once the students get their grades. I'm going to say if this is going to carry real weight with your class, in this, again, virtual environment where the students are meeting at different times of day, maybe you have a class that meets on Monday and a class that meets on Wednesday, and your Monday class just took the test, but the Wednesday class didn't yet. Can almost guarantee the Monday kids are going to share the answers with the Wednesday kids. So you may not want to give out the correct answers to those students. If you decide you want to, though, and it's just really for a review, you can leave that on. And finally, this point values option. You can set the questions to be worth different points. So, if you want to have one question was relatively easy, you only want to give 5 points for that one, but then a more challenging question you want to give like 25 points to, you could set those parameters and then allow the students to be able to see that those questions are worth more or less by having that checkbox turned on. I'm going to hit save here. And one thing that I forgot to do just now, but you definitely want to do, is to make a question of the student's name. And if you didn't know why, it's sometimes Google Forms does not work the way it's supposed to, or Google Classroom and the whole link between them may not translate the way that you anticipated. And if you don't get their first and last name, you won't be able to give that student any points because you're going to have a bunch of answers and not know who did it. To order this, to have this question go first, all I have to do is click and drag it above the other ones. And now that'll be the first question that appears. And you can see that now that I turned the quiz option on, there is an answer key button available underneath each one of those questions. So if I go to that first name, last name, there's really not a right or wrong answer here, but I know I don't need to give them any points. So I'm going to make that 0 points for that question. Instead, I'm going to go down to this next question, hit answer key, and then choose the right answer. So the first letter being A, and I could make that worth 10 points if I wanted to. Hit done. And now you'll see there's a green checkbox showing that that would be the correct answer. And if I go back to answer key, there's actually an option for answer feedback, which could be kind of cool. If you click on this answer feedback, you'll see that if the student gets the right answer, you could say, good job. And they would be notified that they got the right answer and you replied, good job. They have the wrong answer. You could say, according to Webster 2000, blah, blah, blah. And you could provide them a link or have a video play that the student would watch to get that, maybe you walk them through a math problem and, they ended up getting the wrong answer. You can give them a video of how they would get to the correct answer of the right problem. That's really just as interactive as you would like to be, but just know that those options are available to you. You can hit save. And I'm just going to go ahead and finish my answer key here. Done. And this one, the answer, you could have, if it's only a one-word thing, you could type in that the answer is blue. But if it's going to require more thought, or maybe you have to worry about spelling, because if I don't spell blue right, they're not going to get the right answer, because the computer, again, is automatically doing that grading for you. And you can see mark all other answers incorrect if it was set that way. This would make more sense if you were maybe doing like a spelling test, that the spelling did matter. But you're probably going to have to manually grade anything that you have listed as open-ended. Then when you want to see what it looks like for the students, you're going to hit that eyeball that I just hit. And this is a visual of what it's going to look like when the students go to fill this quiz out. I've had people ask me in the last session, what happens if I submitted the whole quiz and I realized in the answer key I marked something wrong that should have been right, or vice versa. The good thing is the Google Forms will automatically recalculate. So even if you had, 15 kids take the test and you realize that one of the questions was not marked correctly, when you update the answer key, it will automatically update the grade for all of those students who already took it. And then it'll also work correctly for all the students who have yet to take it. So definitely something to keep in mind, that you can still change those grades, and the computer will help you out and kind of, work backwards to fix those multiple choice type of questions. Before I get into actually assigning it with Google Classroom, does anyone have any questions so far?
I just had a quick question about, I'm looking at your Google, I'm looking at your forms, and you have, I know I can't really point at it, but up by the theme, where the theme is, the preview, the theme, all the way to the left. What's that icon for? Because I don't have that.
Oh, that's for add-ons.
So we have to add that.
Yeah, if you wanted to, I mean, there's a number of different things in here.
Okay.
Paper score, not that we need this right now, but if you had a student who didn't have their own device, paper score would turn it into a printed version of a Scantron that the student could fill it out, and you could take a picture with your phone and it'll automatically grade the paper version and put it in Google Classroom. So there's some cool things in here, but just based on the fact that we're in the environment we're in and don't really need that now.
Okay. And my other question was, since it's automatically taking their email addresses, if by chance we forgot the student's name, doesn't it all just go into a folder with their emails? Or
yes, in my own habit of not necessarily knowing, sometimes it's hard to keep track of their email addresses if you don't know it off the top of your head. It may be helpful just to get in the habit of doing it anyway. But if you do forget, yes, you could go by last name if you require them to sign in with their school Google account. But if you don't require that, then you're not collecting that information. The way you can check that is by going up to settings and see it says restrict users to Egg Harbor Township schools. So that means that the student has to be signed into their school account in order to take it. If you uncheck this, then you can't verify it. So just make sure you leave that on in that case. And also collect email addresses up here too. Because sometimes what will happen is if there's multiple kids sharing a device at home, you might have their brother or sister who was logged in last, or their parent. If you don't have it set to that they need to be an EHT kid and have their login, that would be the other problem that you could run into in theory. Any other questions? Okay. So at this point, I'm going to go to Google Classroom. And I'm going to switch it to this account because I have way too many. And then I'm going to go into my class here. And just like you would for a normal assignment, you would go up to classwork to assign it and hit create. This time you would choose a quiz assignment, but you're going to have to do one thing differently than because of the way that we set up this quiz. Quiz assignment. And you can see it's trying to make a blank quiz right here. We don't want that. You're going to have to X that out and actually add the Google Drive file that would be listed here, your sample test. Now, before I do this, though, I do want to show you one last thing I should have shown you in the last part. Like I mentioned, some people are sharing quizzes across departments or grade levels and things. and they realize they need to make their own copy before they assign it to the students. Otherwise, everyone's responses are all going to filter inside of one test. So if you're sharing it between your colleagues, you want to make sure that you go up to the 3 dots up here and make a copy, which is right here, and then rename it to something like Mullen test. So that way you know that you're assigning your test, not your group test. Your answers will be filtered inside of here. So then this is really the same test, but this one has my name on it. So I know when I go inside of Google Classroom and add from Google Drive the right test, which is called Mullen test instead of the group one.
Leanna, that goes for like slide. That happened to us, I think, to some of the people on our team, because somebody shared a slide, a Google slide that they did, and then everybody started using the same one. Because when you start editing, you're editing everybody else's, right?
Yes. If they all share with you, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We don't do this enough. I mean, in elementary grade, so there was kind of chaos a few weeks ago. So, okay.
Imagine, yes. But even those who've been using Google for a long time, they haven't really done the Google Forms component, and they thought that, oh well, we're all collaborators. We're really not changing the test. There's nothing to change. But then they go to get the responses, and they'll have 300 kids all inside of one Google form and trying to figure out whose kid is who. So make sure that you do that step. And then you would actually name this to weekly review. You could add specific instructions if you wanted to. You also could say specific point values, give it a due date, just like you would for any other Google Classroom assignment. And you could assign it. Now, someone asked me before if they wanted to give it to specific students or they wanted all the students to take it. Maybe there was one kid who, really and you want to give them another chance. You could actually assign it to one specific student or a group of students. And same thing, if you're in class support and you have one version of the test compared to what the other students are doing, you could individually assign it to those particular students. You're not always stuck with this. It's just a little hard to demonstrate because they don't have any kids in here, but all of their names would be listed, and you would just check off which kids you want to take that assessment. And then I would hit assign, or you could also schedule it ahead of time, just like you would anything else. So I could schedule this to actually go out tomorrow morning instead of going out right now. Hit schedule. And you'll see that right up here where it says weekly review, it's scheduled tomorrow, that all the students would be notified that the test is now there for them to take. But essentially, that was what I was looking to demonstrate. So does anyone have any questions based on anything I've gone over, or just on your own that you run into some issues?
I had a question for, and I'm sorry, I'm always the one bugging you, but I finally figured out and have gotten like quizzes to my kids now. So I've got that down, I think. I want to send, I've been trying to do a survey form for my parents now that we're definitely out till the end of the year, just to know kind of where they're at, what the workload is like, blah, blah, blah. So is it the best, since they don't all have their own Google emails, if I put this on Dojo, do I take a link, a copy of the link and put it on, like what, and where does that go?
Yes.
So that's where I think I've messed up before when I've tried to do something outside of school. Like I would probably put it on Dojo, but I don't know where to respond or how to set up a response back.
So with Dojo only well, you can't get it on a computer, right? Like you don't need it to be on a phone.
They can be on a phone. I have some email addresses, and then I have others that are cell phones. So I don't know, okay. Would this work?
Well, so what I would do is either download the Forms app onto your phone and then copy the link and then send it that way. Or you could grab, when you hit send here, this is, keep in mind, this is going to be a little different just because it's stuck as that. But you would grab this link here to copy it, and then you could copy it and send an email to yourself, or and then grab that and same thing, just paste it in Class Dojo, Or if you could take that same link, you could paste it inside a Google Classroom and just tell your parents, like, you know, parents, I'm sending it through my Google Classroom if you want to just click on a link. But in either case, between Dojo or Google Classroom, all you have to do is hit copy, and then the version of it would look like this. And on your end, it will have the responses that you can see all the going back to responses. As you start to get answers of people filling it in, they'll turn into different pie charts or short answers.
Right.
What it looks like, and you'd be able to view them from here.
So, okay. So if I just copy the link when I'm done and put it on our class dojo, they can fill it out as long as they have that on their phone, as long as they have forms, right? Or on their computer.
Well, they don't need to have the form. Only you as the person who created it would need forms on your phone. It's going to look like a web page for them.
Okay. Okay. So then they can click the link, fill it out, and no matter where once they hit submit from that form, it's still going to come back to my Google Forms.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So I could just copy and paste the link then.
Exactly.
Okay. That's what I've done this before for, I think you were part of the committee for the youth group, and I'm like, I don't know where everything went. Like,
yeah, it all ends up getting fed into that responses area. So you would be able to see again, this has a little more visual effectiveness when there's actual stuff in here, but you would just be able to go back into your form and see the responses all in this one spot.
Okay. I don't have to worry about their email addresses and all that kind of stuff. Right. Should I check that off or no?
Yeah, if I were you, I would probably, because if you're sending out to parents, you probably want to turn off restrict email to each to use.
Okay.
And if you want to collect your email, you can. I would say overall, though, that you probably would want to uncheck that, because then they'd have to make sure they're signed in to an email address and then they need a Google account. Like, that makes it even more complicated. So to deal with parents, I would leave this all open.
Okay. That's what I need. Thank you. Awesome. Yay.
Anybody else?
Can you explain a few of the icons on there, like going from one multiple choice question to the other?
Sure. So
like I set up multiple choice questions, those icons on the right up there. So I want to set up a new question. You got a plus sign, that's all?
Yep. Just to make a new question, you'd hit the plus sign, and then you would choose with this drop down if you wanted to stay multiple choice, or you could choose a different one. From talking to other people, these linear scales, multiple choice grids, and checkboxes, they are nice if you want to have complicated questions, but they don't tend to auto grade properly. So know that if you're going to go into these kind of questions, you're probably going to have to manually grade those.
Okay.
And then these other ones that are listed here, if you want, you could add a title to, like, if you wanted to make a section of like true and false.
Okay.
You could have that be a title, and then all the questions underneath of that be true and false. You could also, I said, like, add an image. Let's say this one. I don't know. I'm just throwing in a question. This would be a picture, and then you could have the students explain what they see up there, or write a short story and have them reference that picture when they're writing their response in there. And you could even have a YouTube video that they watch. That would just be that you would copy and paste the YouTube link, and that would import the video for them to watch that.
That's pretty cool. Okay.
Yeah, they've added a lot of really neat features in here. And if you're doing if you have any ELL students, or you're doing differentiated instruction, you could also add pictures to the multiple choice questions. So like the letter A, I could add an image that specifically shows something, like maybe an apple, or whatever it might be. I could add a picture that goes with each one of these answers.
Okay. That's nice. That's very nice.
Awesome. Anybody else? All right. Well, thank you all for coming. I hope